this photo was taken. Right, in 1910, this was the excitement of this fellowship, of the 4th Street Baptist Church.
Wow.
4th Avenue or 4th Street? 4th Street. Fair enough. And they had just embarked on an expansion of this building because things were going so great. From 1886 to 1890 to 1900, the fellowship was burgeoning. And so they continued to expand. But then next generations came along. And next generations came along. And then by 1910, it was at a wonderful fevered pitch, still making its way up that growth curve. But a lot of you, when I think the Wests began to negotiate with this place, came by. And you saw what it looked like, what was it, 20 years ago? Barely the front row was filled with these people. It's the same story for all the churches that we looked at in Virginia as well. The church that we traded with, they wanted our church. It was a small church. It could fit about, I don't know, maybe 100 people. Theirs was fit 400. We were on the rise. They were shrinking. We made a trade. And they're using that church to manage their lack of growth and manage their palliative care, so to speak, as they head towards the death of a fellowship. Right, but we should not be so arrogant to think that we're immune from this. And it is not a failing of Jesus or of the Spirit that causes this. It is a reinstituting of our flesh back into the equation of discipleship, where we at some point think that we know a bit better than the beautiful, raw obedience that goes into the fervor of going and making disciples and obeying everything that Jesus taught. And by the way, to filter out, go and make disciples from obeying everything is quite ironic. And to have members, and by the way, in the book of Malachi, when God is so repulsed by the leaders, why is he repulsed by the leaders? Because they lowered their expectations for the people. Wow. You allow the people to bring me compromise of commitment. Yeah. And I would imagine what the priest might have been saying is, well, better they bring a lame lamb than no lamb at all. And is that not so easy what we can do in our small groups? Well, better they, at least come and maybe their kids will hear the word and they don't come at all. Maybe better that they're at least kind of involved in fellowship. Maybe something will rub off on them somehow or another. I know how it's easy to get there because I'm there.
Come on.
I'm in the middle of this fight right now. We all are. Why? Because we're all one. Yeah. Right? There's not going to be like, oh, we're going to have a city on a hill in Lexington. Watch Lexington go. Lexington's not going to be able to do this if we don't do this, if you don't do this, if everyone else doesn't do this.
Yeah.
We are linked more than we know.
Yeah.
And this requires a sober assessment from us all, and also a sober recommitment from us all as well. Amen. And by the way, we more than any other fellowship are much more at risk for this. And here's why. Some of these are let me just show it to you here. So because we disciple, right, and because we really do hold to the idea, imitate me as I imitate Christ, as Paul says to the Corinthians and to most every other church, because we really do imitate, just as a disciple is a disciple, but again, because we're imitating Christ, that, let's say, Brian at 18, I'll use Brian here. Were you converted at 18?
Yeah.
Okay. So Brian at 18, not that it was year 2000, but but Brian at 18, the size of that marker representing him would be just, let's say, the size of his available energy for Jesus, and that which he actually deployed for Jesus, right? So the size of the circle is how much of his life is easily reformulated and given to Jesus, right? And at 18, there's not a lot just tugging on him, and he's all in. Jesus, founder, faith, zeal, nothing to spare. But then, at 33, he's got a wife. He's got 1.2 kids. He's not just doing campus ministry. You know, now he's trying to like keep the teen ministry alive and lead a whole church in Detroit. Or, I don't know if you were there at 33 or not. Okay, fair enough. This was not made with him in mind. It's typical of all of us. No. This is made for John Landis, by the way. It's his story, his dates. But anyway, who leads the Roanoke Church? But at 33, he then begins to disciple a campus minister who hears of the great accomplishments at Ann Arbor of the great Brian Perkins, and he thinks, you know what, I'm just going to do what Brian does. Brian, you know what? This week, Brian, I just want to breathe, eat, sleep, everything with you. Wherever you go, I go. I'm going to do whatever you do. Right? And he hangs with Brian, and he watches him return emails. And he hangs with Brian, and you know, he sees him polishing off his PhD thesis.